Welcome to the Rusted Garden Homestead. Today I'm going to give you 5 tips for growing radishes. And the whole goal for radishes, of course, is to get a nice bulb. Now these aren't fully mature yet, but they're a good size. I'll harvest a couple of them. Radishes were probably the hardest vegetable for me to figure out. All I used to grow was a ton of leafy greens and no radishes. If you look down here real quick, you can see all kinds of great red bulbs in there. So after a couple of years, I figured it out. Tip number 1, do not add any extra nitrogen to your soil for radishes. If you do, you're going to grow more of this and you're going to get less radishes. They just don't need it. Radishes grow extremely well in plain old compost, which is under a 111 NP&K, just a slow and steady feed of fertilizer of nutrients. So when you're putting them into the ground for your spring, don't add anything to the soil. You'll be doing them a favor. They will develop more without extra nitrogen. You don't need to give them any kind of water-soluble fertilizer. Fish emulsion, for instance, is a 5-1-1 fertilizer, 5 nitrogen, 1 phosphorus, 1 potassium. That extra nitrogen may not hurt them. I'm not saying you're going to wreck your plants, but it's just going to go to leaf growth, and that's what you do not want. So no fertilizer. Tip number 2, there are 4 radishes going across, 20 rows all the way down, that's 80 radishes. Do not seed start your radishes. A lot of people, for some reason, start radishes in your seed cells. You put a little radish seed in there, it's going to germinate, but then it takes a lot of time to transplant all of your seed starts into here, and the radish will go through a little bit of a shock. When a radish germinates, it puts out a really long taproot that goes down into the ground. If you start them in little cells, the roots get coiled. So these tips will help you grow really nice radishes. These aren't quite the size yet, but they're a nice size. I'm going to go eat them now. If you see cracking in your radishes just like that, that usually is because there's too much water. We had like 4 inches of rain yesterday, so you also want to water your radishes kind of slow and low. Don't soak them in with a ton of water, because when they're at this point and they're growing well, if they get too much water, they tend to crack. So just slow, regular waterings will keep them from cracking. That could actually be tip number 6. You know, you'll still get some radishes, but it's a lot more work to seed start them and then to plant the seed starts into this space. When I plant radishes, I just put in my finger about 1/4 of an inch, space them out just like that, and drop in 2 seeds. After they get to about this tall, I thin it to a single plant, and I'm good to go. Very quickly, you get the seeds in, and your radishes can take the cold weather, so seed starting them really isn't important. Tip number 3, you want to make sure you have a really loose soil so the radish develops easily. And you want to space them out at least 2 inches up to 4 inches depending on what you're growing. French breakfast, you can put almost right next to each other. These are bigger radishes, so they have a good 2 inches between the plants. If you have bigger radishes, maybe 3 inches. But give them more space, nice loose soil, and that will help them develop into really nice looking radishes. And again, these aren't even quite ready to be picked. I am going to take a few. So I don't know what tip we're on, maybe number 4. Loose soil was a separate tip. Spacing was the next one. So you also want to make sure you plant your radishes in succession. So like I said, there's 80 radishes here. They're all going to be coming pretty much at once. I have some radishes in another area that I'm going to walk over to. But you don't want to put down 200 radish seeds at the same time, because then you're going to have 200 radishes all to eat within a couple of days. Space them out. Put them in the ground. Put down, maybe 80 of them. When they break the surface and they get, maybe a ½ an inch tall, then you can go ahead and put in more radishes. And this way, you're harvesting over a 2, 3, 4 week period, and you get a continuous supply of radishes. So here is my other radish patch, and you can see little radishes are starting to form. These are about 2 weeks younger than the other ones. So when I'm harvesting from those across the way, these will become mature when I run out of radishes on the other side. So let's go over the tips real quick. Number 1, don't fertilize them. If you want to give them potassium and phosphorus, that's fine. You just don't want to give them extra nitrogen. Don't seed start them. Just put them right in the ground. It's much quicker, and radishes love to germinate in the cold weather. They can take a frost. Loose soil, space them out and plant them in succession so you're not getting so many radishes at once. And then maybe, I guess, 6 tips. The final tip is these are dish racks that I get at thrift stores, and they're protecting arugula right there and spinach back there. They're also come in different shapes and sizes. I am protecting the peas back there. That's from rabbits. Rabbits tend to leave my radishes alone, but if you have something that's eating your radish plants or your cool weather crops, you can just find these at thrift stores and you just drop them right over your plant. They make a great barrier, and this way you're not disappointed. The birds, the rabbits, or other animals aren't coming and stealing your radishes or eating down your plants. Hope this helps you really have some confidence in growing radishes. Remember, we're not going to grow leafy greens. We want to grow nice radish bulbs, and these tips will certainly help you out. Thanks for watching, and please check out my seed shop at therustedgarden.com.